All right, what is up? Hey, this is Daniel Barrett. How are you? If I haven't talked to you in a while, I hope you're doing all right. I'm going live just on my Facebook profile timeline here because this is kind of for everyone. It's not kind of a strictly business thing. Um, I want to talk a little bit about rationing information about COVID-19. If you are like me, look, like when I get a problem, I read about it, right? Like it's like every problem I've ever had, I basically just go on Amazon and buy 10 books about it and try to solve my problems by reading and kind of breaking down what I learn. And in many cases, that's an incredibly well adapted response to things. And hey, it's how I make my money. It's how I make my living. You know, I basically learn and write and teach stuff for a living. It's great. But in a time like the one that we're in right now, where everything's kind of bonkers and everything's stressful, it is. What's up, Skip? How are you, man? It's incredibly important to also make sure that while you are kind of tapped into the pulse of everything that's happening, that you're also taking care of yourself. And quite frankly, I don't know about you, but like, quite frankly, I've been reading the New York Times every day. I've been like going on Twitter and following Twitter lists about COVID-19 and getting emails and all this stuff and reading people's Facebook posts. And it is stressing me out. And I don't know what stresses me out more, the actual news about the virus or reading everybody's hot takes about it and then not knowing what to say and like, do I engage and do I post in the comments? And like, it's too much. And what's going to happen is that over time, I'm going to get incredibly stressed out and that's going to make me sick. So I don't want to do that. So we can all stay informed and stay up to date without driving ourselves completely off the rails. And I want to show you exactly what I'm going to do. It's like 4 or 5 very specific steps. And this is going to help to keep you, if you're working from home, it's going to help to keep you very productive. This is going to help to keep you less stressed. And you're going to stay in touch with everything because I really do believe we have a civic duty to stay up to date about what's going on, but not at the price of your sanity, preferably. So let's talk about this. So here's my list. I'm actually preparing this as a blog post. So you can just look at my list here, right? Okay, so we have a couple things. So first thing is to make sure you are limiting your information pulse. So I wrote a blog post about this. In fact, I think I have it over here. Yeah. So I wrote a blog post about this actually before this kind of all broke the way that it broke, called In Defense of the News. And look, I believe in the news. I think the news is important. I don't buy, half the criticism that the media gets today is just kind of completely over the top, in my opinion. But we are living in a day where there's an incredibly rapid pulse to information, meaning you are constantly getting tiny bits of information. And the pace at which you digest those can be very stressful. The other thing is that the faster the pulse of the information that you get, the less accurate it tends to be, right? The information that's like 50 years old from now, it's had enough time to be vetted. Historians have gone over it. There's more and more evidence, right? It's probably as accurate as about it's going to get. Versus the tweet that someone sent out today saying about something that they saw on the street or whatever, it's probably not super accurate, right? Or at least there's a higher chance that it's not accurate. So we want to stay in touch with the news, but we want to slow the pulse, which means no more checking the New York Times every day. New York Times doing those live updates. I would not watch cable news. I think it's like I would not get your news from Twitter just in general. Twitter's great for conversation and sort of people's takes on things, but for news, I don't particularly like it. So how am I getting my news? I'm sort of limiting my COVID-19 news to 2 sources. Now, you don't have to choose my sources. Choose the sources that you trust, but the pulse is very important. So I'm doing this very deliberately. The first, I like this newsletter. So this is the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and the Center for Health Security. They do a daily newsletter. So it's one daily newsletter. I'll show you one right here. This is the one for March 16th. It is pretty straightforward. They tell you, like the number of cases across the world. They cover major news, like sort of happenings. They talk about what people are doing in different parts of the world, especially in the United States. They link out to articles if you want to read more, and that's it. So it's a daily newsletter, comes in the morning, and I check it, and then that's it. I'm turning off COVID-19 for the rest of the day. Why? Because one, I trust these people as a source. They know what they're talking about. Two, it's once a day. So it's not going to completely stress me out. Maybe I could read it I don't know if you want to read it at the end of the day, right before you go to bed. This is an incredibly good resource. Just Google Center for Health Security newsletters. You'll find this one. I highly suggest it. The other news source I'm using is the New York Times. I get the paper New York Times on Sunday only. So the Sunday Times is a really good kind of time to read the Times because it kind of has all the stuff from the week. It has a lot of summary of the news. Again, you don't have to use the Times if you don't like the New York Times. You don't have to use this thing, but think about the pulse. The pulse is one thing a day and then one thing at the end of the week. That's very deliberate because it allows me to hear about the major things that are happening, but not rapidly enough that it's going to stress me out. Like I feel like I got to catch up, like it's happening all so fast. Most of the things that I'm going to have time to be thought about and vetted, and a little bit more evidence get to be added to those. So that is incredibly important to me, right? So think about the pace of the information, right? Daily and then once a week. So you use your sources however you want to use it. Those happen to be the ones that I like. Now, second thing, Facebook. We got to deal with Facebook. Okay, Facebook is great. I love you. I love you. I love everyone on my timeline. I love you to death. I wish you nothing but the best. But Facebook is where hot takes go to die. And I can't handle it. And there's a ton of misinformation. I probably called out like 3 or 4 people. Called out is not the right word, but I pointed out 3 or 4 people's posts that were completely false, right? They're just completely made up. It's like chain letters, right? It's goofy. So there's a lot that happens on Facebook that like, I just don't need to know about, but I don't want to lose the functionality of Facebook that I love, which are like groups, which are incredibly important to me. I use Facebook for advertising for my business. I use Facebook for the coaching programs that I run, right? So what do you do about it? There's a tool that I would highly suggest. And that tool is called Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator. Now, this is a plugin for Chrome. I'm sure you can find something for Safari or whatever you're using. Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator. It's free. You Google it, you install it. And what it does is it makes, when you log into Facebook, this is what you see, right? It's Facebook. There's no newsfeed. You can have it put like your own quotes here if you want, or they just put kind of like motivational quotes. I can't tell you what this does for my sanity. It's incredibly important because what I can do is pick and choose the places I want to interact. Primarily, like I'm in my coaching group, right? The Search, Click, Convert Bootcamp. I can come in here and I can interact with my students, right? I can go to, the enemies list group, or I can go to the network, which is like a mastermind that I'm a part of, right? And I can come here and like read the post and interact with the people I like. I can get messages. I just don't have to see the feed. And the feed is where most of the stress comes from. So I'd highly, highly recommend Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator. All right. So we're removing some of the stressors, right? I'm removing some of the stressors here. I'm removing the things that are primarily the things that are going to make me miserable. The fast pace of the information. I'm removing the hot takes, right? And all the commenting, and removing the struggle of deciding if I want to comment on everything, right? So I'm just removing that. Now it's time to refocus on what your priorities are, right? We need to refocus away a little bit from the external towards what's important to you. Because look, the external world, the things that are happening around us right now, this is a once in a lifetime kind of, hopefully, good Lord, but right, it's a epoch changing. This is a game changing event we're in the middle of, right? And that's amazing. We want to stay in touch with that. But at the same time, I don't have any control over it, right? All I have control over is my own actions. And so while I want to do what I need to do, and look, I'm social distancing and I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to do, right? I need to make sure that I don't lose track of what's important to me and the things that are important to me, the projects that are important to me, the people that are important to me, etc. So there's 2 things I want to kind of refocus on. One is deep work, and the other is long-term priorities, okay? Deep work, there's a great book called Deep Work, which you can go read. But basically, I'm going to sum up the entire thing for you, which is, hey, you should set aside a couple hours at a time to just focus deeply on one thing. There you go. You just saved you 20 bucks, right? It's basically what it is. And it's easier said than done because we live in a highly interruptible society with a lot of stuff going on, and it can be very difficult. So not to mention, like, you got other people interrupting you, but then you interrupt yourself with the internet and your phone and a million things. I mean, I do this just as much as everybody else. I'm not saying this from like a place of, hey, I figured this all out, right? I will tell you something that worked for me, and it's like just like software thing to hack. You do it. It works every time. So here's what I'll do here. I'll show you my calendar. I hope there's nothing embarrassing on my calendar. Okay. Now you'll notice here, I have this green block that's called Deep Work 80/20. If you can see that there. Now, if you go back to like previous weeks, you can see actually I have significantly more. So I have 3 deep work blocks each week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They're in the mornings because the morning is my primary productive time, right? This is when I'm most, what's up, Coy? How are you? This is when I'm most productive, when I do my best thinking, right? It's in the morning, right? So here, let's go back and share this. Okay, here you go. This is my calendar. I don't know if you guys could see that before. You can see here, I have these blocks called 80/20 deep work here. You can see this week, I actually got rid of a couple because I wanted to open some time to do calls with people. But you can see here, I have this block here. Now, deep work is great. If you set it off on your calendar, no one's going to interrupt you. That's great. But let's say you can do that, but you still got to deal with your own interruptions. So one of the tools that I use is Rescue Time. Now, Rescue Time, here, let's just go here. Rescue Time is a time tracking app. No, this is mine here. Yeah, that's fine. So we could show this. So Rescue Time is a time tracking app. It kind of, you put it on your calendar, you put it on your computer rather, you put it on your phone, and it just looks at what you're doing. It looks at all the sites that you go to, and it breaks it down into productive and non-productive. Now that's great, and it gives you a lot of data. I actually use this pretty extensively in some of my productivity hacks and stuff in terms of like seeing when I get distracted and all that stuff. But here is a little known hack for Rescue Time that is truly amazing. If in the title, and you set this up, it's an option in Rescue Time, you connect it to your Google Calendar. In Google Calendar then, if you change your, and I gotta be careful not to do this because I think it'll block me from Facebook. But in the title, once you set this up in Rescue Time, in the title of the Google Calendar event, so for example, on all your deep work events, you put #FocusTime in the title or in the description. I think it works. What will happen is that during that calendar event, so I'm going to delete this so it doesn't kick me off Facebook. So during this calendar event, if you put that #FocusTime there, Rescue Time will block all distracting websites from your computer and phone. So you can list whatever's a distracting website for you. So you can list out things. So like, let's say you listed like Facebook, Twitter, the New York Times. You can even do Slack, the Slack app, etc. Rescue Time will just block it. So when you try to go to that website or that app on your phone or on your computer, it'll just say, hey, remember you're focusing right now. The power of this is that you do it in advance. So you do it when you're setting up your focus time. You just put it in the calendar and you set it and forget it. And so you will absolutely, I do this all the time, like try to go to Twitter because your brain's like, I need a break. And it's just blocked. And amazingly, once you take it out of your hands and you know there's just nothing you can do about it, you're just free to do whatever you want. It becomes much easier to focus, right? So the focus time hack for Rescue Time is absolutely incredible. I think you got to pay for Rescue Time to use it. It's worth it. You can do it manually. So for Rescue Time, you can just go manually and say, hey, I'm in focus time now, and it'll block all the stuff. So you can do it that way. But I like just scheduling it and knowing like, hey, when I get there, it's already on. I didn't have to make the decision, use the willpower to make any of that happen. It just happens without me. And that's really where I get a lot of value out of it, right? You just schedule it, you make it an automatic thing. Let's see, we got one more thing I'm going to suggest here, and that is refocus on your long-term priorities. So this is kind of a broader, sort of more philosophical thing, right? But for me, being productive and feeling good about the work that I do. It's about feeling like my work is moving me towards the end result that I'm really motivated to achieve, right? Recently I turned 40, right? So I actually made this doc here called the 50-year plan. I'm still working on this, right? But I was like, cool, in my first 40 years, here are things that I'm proud of, right? I got married to my high school crush. I had 2 awesome kids. I bought a house, started $1 million plus company. I employed amazing people. I recorded and released 7 albums. I performed in front of several thousand people. Currently, I'm in the best shape of my life, which is not saying much, but whatever. I have like problems, right? Here are my biggest problems, right? My atrial fibrillation is getting worse over time. Right now, I have significant credit card debt. I had someone that I hired literally put me in like $100,000 of credit card debt, which is amazing. If you've never had that experience, oh, it's so great. It's so fun. My profit margin, my business, it's a little low. I don't like that, right? I'm saving every week, but I'm not saving enough that I'm really comfortable, right? My eating patterns lately are kind of disordered, and I'm not really sure why, right? So it's like, cool. So I'm going over what I'm grateful for. I'm going over what my current problems are, and then I'm setting goals, not for this year, but for the next 10 years. Because I believe there's kind of an old adage, right, where we overestimate what we're going to do in a week, and we underestimate what we could do in a year. And that's doubly true for 10 years. 10 years, it can be night and day, massive changes. So the goal or the idea here is to set ambitious goals at the 10-year level, and then just worry about what you're doing right now, right? Be like, 10 years, I want to be Mr. Olympia. All right, cool. What am I going to do right now? And right now, you can't say like, well, I'm going to gain like 10 pounds of muscle, because that's not right now. Right now is, well, I should probably go to the gym. Except you shouldn't go to the gym, so maybe you need to make a home gym, right? So I don't know, whatever you need to do right now. So the thing for me is, whenever I get stressed and I feel like, God, there's so much going on and I don't know what I'm doing, kind of had that feeling today where I was like, I don't know what to work on. I come back to the 10-year plan and I say, like, what's the 10-year plan and what am I doing right now? Right now. I don't have to worry about how to get there in 10 years. I want to have 10 years in my head as a picture of where I'm going, and then I just need to worry about right now. And if what you're doing right now is connected somehow to what you want in 10 years, you're going to feel better about the work that you're doing. You're going to feel more productive. You're going to feel happier. You're going to feel less stressed. Because I'll tell you, as people, especially if you're watching this, right? You're the kind of person that wants to watch a video like this. I could tell you, right? I will tell you for a fact, the thing that will make you happiest in the short term is feeling like you're making progress on something that matters to you. It doesn't matter if you're there yet, right? It doesn't matter if you finished it. And in fact, finishing it, oftentimes you go up and then you come down and you don't feel as great as you thought you would, right? It's because it's not about finishing it. It's about the work. It's about doing the work. The work is what makes you feel good about yourself. It's achievement. And I'm not saying that's like a life philosophy you can take forever, right? Like, I'm not saying like that's the end all be all of human happiness, but I'm telling you about in the short term, right? Nothing makes you feel better than progress. So figure out a way where you can connect that 10-year vision of everything that you could possibly do, which I'm telling you is way more than you think it is. It's way more than you think it is. Connect that 10-year vision to something you are doing right now and just do something, and you're going to feel a lot better. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, I'll turn this into a blog post. I'll write it out. If you guys are curious, I do a weekly newsletter called Better Questions. It's just one question every week. It's meant to change your mind a little bit on something. You can get that at nolessthan.com. So nolessthan.com. Just click the thing that says Better Questions. I will see you guys later. I'm going to go turn off the news and get some work done. Love you. Bye.